You wanna play games, motherfucker?
Oh yes, Sam Jackson, I do want to play this game. Spiral was directed by Darren, Lynn, Bousman and stars Samuel L. Jackson and Chris Rock. Chris Rock is a detective that's on the same force that his father used to be the chief of, and his father is now retired. Now, Chris Rock finds himself in a series of events where these cops are getting killed and he doesn't know why, and they think the Jigsaw Killer is up at it again. Now, let's put this into perspective real quick. Me going into this movie, I was very excited to go see this movie. I'm not a big horror guy. I never really was up until like the last few years. I really started to get into that more. One of my favorite horror movies is Scream. Obviously love the original Nightmare on Elm Street. I love the original Halloween. I love a lot of the horror genre stuff nowadays, and I really like to, kind of, get my feet wet in the genre and kind of see what there is in the genre. But Saw was never really a big one for me. I heard that the first one is fantastic, and what I've seen from it, it does look very good. But then the rest have a bad reputation of just being like torture porn kind of stuff, and that's no fun. That's never any fun. Obviously, some people do enjoy the Saw series specifically for the gore and the traps and everything, and while there are very interesting traps in the genre, that isn't always me. Like, that doesn't always appeal to me. It's more of like the story. Like, when I heard the twists and turns of some of these, movies before, I was very intrigued by that. And Spiral does tend to have a more feel of the character aspect of the movie. While the traps are not as crazy as they used to be, it kind of reels it back a little bit, What I liked about a lot of the traps in this is that they're all very winnable. Like, some traps I've seen in Saw movies where it just looks like that they cannot do, what they need to do to get out of the trap, and it feels very much like this is just like you're in the trap to get killed. It doesn't feel like you have a chance to get out of it. But this one does have a great feeling of, okay, you've done wrong, and there's a chance for you to live, but you need to do it fast, and you need to think fast, because otherwise you're going to die. And here's another thing. Chris Rock as the lead detective in this movie is great. I thought that it was an interesting casting choice. A lot of these guys are now trying to broaden their horizon and what movies they can act in and what they want to be in. And I think Chris Rock nails what he wanted to see in this version of Saw. This was a kind of layout of what Chris wanted to see. He brought it to Lionsgate and was like, this is kind of what I want to see. And then they kind of went like, okay, well, let's try to make it. And I really do think that Chris Rock does a very good job in this movie. And Sam Jackson, I did like what I saw with Sam Jackson, and I think, him swearing at anybody is always just going to make me smile, and especially that, beginning where he asks to play game, that's always funny to me, and I enjoyed it. I personally wish that they did more with Sam Jackson. He's not really in the movie as much as I wanted him to be, therefore his character didn't have a lot behind it, so that was unfortunate, but I still thought that he did good with what he had. Now, as I said, I really wanted to go into this movie. I was very hyped, but I was also having a clear mind. I wanted to digest the movie and not go in with a bias, so to speak. But it's hard sometimes. You see certain things, and then you see posters, you see trailers, even though you try to avoid them, but you still also have this perceived notion of the movie, like you want it to be as good as you think it can be. And that's how I went going into this. I won't lie to you and say that I didn't want to go in this movie and absolutely love this movie, but the script does kind of bring it down a couple notches for me. I will say that I think the script and the direction is not as good as it could be. I think there's quite a bit of plot holes in this movie that could have been shored up a little bit. There's some aspects of the movie that I think are just underwhelming, especially the ending. I thought when the ending happened, I was very much like, that's it. Like, that just kind of, the ending didn't stick the landing, and the whole movie kind of had a weird feeling to it sometimes. Everything is very tense in the movie. There isn't a lot of downtime in this movie. The script is very fast-paced. The direction is very fast-paced. So while, as much as I liked Chris Rock in the movie with what he was doing, and, I found the characters around him passable, a lot of the stuff that happens is not digested as well as it could be. It feels like they go from scene to scene to scene to scene to scene, and it just kind of feels like, where's the emotion behind some of these things? Like, it's just, I felt like they could have done a better job with that, and that comes down to direction as well. If you didn't know, Darren Lynn Bousman did make a couple of movies in the Saw franchise. Now, that's not to say that like Darren Lynn Bousman couldn't make more movies in the Saw franchise. I think he probably could, but I think if you got somebody else to do it, it might have been better. It might have been a little different. It might have been, something better than what we got. And while this isn't terrible, I think this is actually a good movie to an extent. I do think that if you had somebody who had a different vision, maybe, it could have been a lot better. I would have gone far as to say that you could have gotten Mike Flanagan to do this movie. Mike Flanagan is the one that made Dr. Sleep, that's right behind me, and he's made a bunch of horror movies, and he's shown that he can understand the genre, and he can make a really, really good movie. So, did I enjoy Darren Lynn Bousman's vision of the movie? Kinda. Do I wish it was something different? Absolutely. So, I won't say that he did the worst job ever, like the most, downright terrible job ever, but, it could have been a lot better than what it was. And I will say this as one of my final points. The direction of the movie, how it looked, the shots, all that, amazing. I thought the people who helmed the camera and really laid out the shots and really were moving along with the movie and how it looks and feels, they did a great job with that. So the acting was very good, camera work, all that technical stuff was very good. I thought the story was intriguing enough outside of its ending, and I wish it was, paced a little bit slower, let people digest a little bit more, and I wish it was kind of like a different vision. So I'm going to give Spiral 3.5 stars. As I said, it's not a bad movie. It may seem like I, didn't enjoy it as much as, I did, but nevertheless, this movie had high expectations, and I think a lot of those expectations were higher because Chris Rock's name is attached to it, and it is a, it's a different kind of person doing a different genre, so to speak, which I commend for that, and I want to see more people do certain things like that. However, the script and the direction kind of let this movie down a little bit. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to y'all next time.